There's only one big question remaining for this season. Is Sebastian Vettel going to be a 5-time world champion? Of course, it's his final season in F1. He announced his retirement at the Japanese Grand Prix, so only one shot at a championship. He is currently P2 in the standings with 52 points behind Charles Leclerc, and there are still 3 Grand Prix to go, so it can all change in just a moment of time. But we need to hold on for that to see in the final race. As we have a look at our driver details, we have won one race at the moment. We have 5 podium finishes. Average finish is 13th. Average grid is P16. It's quality time here at the Mexico Grand Prix. Of course, we only have one set of softs for Q1 and one for Q2, so I decided to just wait until the very end of the qualifying to go on and push for a good lap to get us through towards the later stages of qualifying. But as you can see, here's my teammate. He's going really slowly, and there's just a big crash because Daniel Ricciardo drives into the back of him and he's out of qualifying. He's not the only one. I think it's about 3 or 4 drivers who are out of qualifying. So there will be a lot less drivers to go through to qualifying 2 and 3. So we only need to have a good push lap. As you can see, we are going for it. We are trying to get pole position here. Of course, we do not have the best car yet. We need to improve and improve. But we are waiting to get all our parts secure for next season. And now it's only 5 seconds remaining in the session. You can see we have a green sector. Of course, it's the first lap that we are doing, so there probably won't be any red sectors. As we are now going towards the end of the lap, through the stadium we go, and it's at the moment looking good. We are in P22, of course. It's our first and final lap. It's a one-shot qualifying to get through to the later parts of qualifying. Will it be enough? Will we get into the next part of qualifying? It does look like it. It looks like we finished in P9. So we are through to qualifying 2. Of course, that's not a big surprise anymore, as we are in a midfield car. And you can see my teammate is through as well, but he has a 5-place grip penalty. So does Ocon. And it looks like Sainz is out. It looks like Russell is out and Tsunoda is out. Of course, Ricciardo is also out. And you can see there are only 13 drivers going through to qualifying 2 and only 10 going to qualifying 3. So that means that we only need to be quicker than 3 other drivers to get ourselves in the final stage of qualifying. Once again, only one lap that counts, only one lap that can decide if we get through to the final part of qualifying. We start our lap with a long straight until turn 1, so the start needs to be good tomorrow. As you can see, qualifying complete for the second time, and we are still in P13. My teammate in P12, can he be fast enough to get into Q3 as well? It doesn't look like it. He is in P11. But do we get fast enough? Can we go faster than Magnussen? Can we get faster than Ocon? Where will we be? Will we be out or will we be through? It looks like we are through to qualifying 3. We are just in P10. So we are so close to getting knocked out. But we are through to the final part of qualifying. You can see only a few thousands between me and Magnussen. Unfortunately, my teammate is out and so are the 2 Haas's. But we are through to the final part of qualifying, which we are going to right now. Let's go. Okay, so final part of qualifying. We are going out a bit earlier than we did in the last 2 parts. But I decided to go out earlier because I wanted to do 2 laps. As you can see here, we start our first lap. So if we don't get a good lap in, then we get a second try at it. Of course, we get 2 green sectors, as is once again our first lap of the session. We are 3/10 slower than Perez through sectors 1 and 2 together. But can we get faster? It doesn't look like it at the moment. As the stadium section is the slowest section for me in this whole lap as we move up into P9. But we can still set another lap. You can see we gain 1/10 of a second already. Qualifying is complete. It's only this lap that counts. If we can make it, then we get up into P4, maybe P6, maybe P7. It's a big difference, of course, for tomorrow. But as we go around the final corner, we have a purple second sector, and it looks like we are in P6. We are starting from P6 tomorrow in the big Grand Prix. Of course, there's a lot that can happen there. And it was only a 4/10 difference between Vettel and us. Vettel takes pole position, which is really great to see, because that means that he can try and win this Grand Prix to gain points on Leclerc, but it's all to show for in tomorrow's race.
Welcome to Mexico City, the most popular city in North America, and home, of course, to the Mexico City Grand Prix. It's a sellout crowd as usual here at one of the shortest circuits on the Formula One calendar. And who, I wonder, will they be cheering on the top step of today's podium? The Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez, 2.6 miles of track that allows drivers to take full advantage of their cars, reaching speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour. And providing lots of opportunities for overtaking. The circuit features 17 corners, 10 to the right, and the remaining 7 going to the left. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. Sebastian Vettel will start on pole, a fantastic qualifying from the multiple world champion. And it's Fernando Alonso alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Verstappen, Leclerc, and Sir Lewis Hamilton. The engineer, Perez, Norris, Magnussen, and Robert Schwartzman. Ocon, they've taken a grid penalty. Sainz, George Russell, and Tsunoda. Gasly, Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo, and Mick Schumacher. Joe, Latifi, Button, and Alex Albon picks up the last spot on the grid. That's it then, it's time to go racing as we head down trackside for today's race. It's just about time to go down to the track for the beginning of the race, but before we do, Anthony Davidson, what types of strategy do you think we can expect for today's event?
Well, there's a lot that both the driver and the team have to keep in mind when going into a race. Tyres, fuel, energy recovery systems, the list goes on and on. But I think the key to today's victory will come down to the pit stop strategy. Come in too soon and you might find yourself needing more than one stop. Too late and you're putting yourself at a disadvantage by spending longer on worn tyres.
Our teammate unfortunately has another penalty, which means that he's going to start at the back of the grid. Of course, he had already a 5-place grid penalty for his collision with Daniel Ricciardo, but I think the team decided to change his engine as well, because he wasn't going to score points anyway. Or maybe he will, depends if he gets a great Grand Prix, but we are not expecting that from him at the moment. Of course, with how his last few races have been, I don't think that he will be scoring any points today. As you can see, the cars are lining up towards the grid to get the race underway, and we are now starting the Grand Prix. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights on, and it's lights out, and away we go. We have a bad start as always. We don't expect anything else. You can see from P6 we are dropping down the order. We are almost out of the top 10, so we need to try and go around the outside or maybe down the inside to try and overtake drivers once again. We go down the inside of the Haas, even going along side with the Mercedes, and we overtake him as well. That's Hamilton, and we are up into P6 once again. A great first corner, and you can see Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc are fighting for that first position. They are still side by side going to the next part of corners. You can see they're still side by side. No one is giving up, but it looks like Charles Leclerc has won this battle, but not the Grand Prix. There's still a long way to go, still 35 laps to go, as we are still in P4. We've overtaken Verstappen and Perez and are now behind Fernando Alonso, and lap 3 is still the same. The gap is getting a bit bigger, but you can see we are still trying to hold on to that fourth position, as we still have 2 very fast Red Bulls behind us. And at the moment my teammate is in P22, so as I said before, he is not going to score points in this race, or a miracle has to happen, but I don't think that's going to happen, as it is the Mexico Grand Prix. Of course, last time around I won this Grand Prix. It was an amazing Grand Prix. with the weather changing and going onto the right tires at the right moment. But Max Verstappen tries to overtake us, but we hold the inside line and we defend from him into turn 1, into turn 2, and even turn 3. And we are still ahead of Max Verstappen, who is not a champion in our MyTeam at the moment. He hasn't won it last year, he isn't going to win it this year. So maybe next season is for him, or maybe even for us. Maybe it's going to be a fight between the two of us. But at the moment, it's a fight between Leclerc and Vettel for the championship, as we are entering lap 7 already. And yeah, to be honest, the gap ahead is already growing towards 3 seconds. And I'm not surprised at all by that, as of course we are not in a front runner car at the moment. We need to secure those spots because everybody will probably lose a lot of them. So if we can maintain the parts that we have already upgraded, then we can go for the championship next year. Of course, we do not have an engine supplier just yet, so please, I've put it in a few days before. Go and vote on which engine supplier we should get for Season 3. As we are currently in lap 10, still Verstappen 1 second behind us. He is in the DRS, but we are trying to cut him off and create a gap to him, as the gap ahead is still 3 seconds. We are at the same level as them at the moment, and to be honest, that surprises me a little bit. But we are trying to hold on as much as we can to P4. You can see Verstappen is so much quicker on the straights. Of course, with that DRS and probably also OP ERS, but we are trying to hold on as we are in lap 11. It's almost 1/3 of the race down, but we have another look at the battle between the front two. It looks like Sebastian Vettel is just trying to hold on to stay behind Charles Leclerc at the moment, and maybe go for an overcut or maybe an undercut, trying to do it in the pit stop. And yeah, to be honest, it's quite easy to overtake here. As you can see, Max Verstappen tries it once again here. He goes for the outside line. We push him a bit to the outside, and we try to go for the late breakers move. And you can see we are still ahead of him. We are defending it beautifully. As Perez is now dropping down, he's 2 seconds behind us, which is really, really great. Because that means that we are not trying to defend from 2 bulls, it's only 1. So I think that should be possible. As there's a safety car out of nowhere, there's a safety car. I think there's 2 drivers out of Grand Prix. It looks like it's Alexander Albon and another driver. I think maybe it's Ocon. It does look like it. And as you can see on the minimap, Sebastian Vettel and Charles Leclerc are not coming into the pit. They are going straight on to the safety car. And as it looks, they do not go into the pits for the entirety of the safety car. That's not good at all. They will both drop down to the final few places of the grid once they pit eventually. But yeah, that means that we can go and fight for the win. It's only between us, Alonso and Verstappen. Of course, Hamilton is also here, but we have just a bit better car than Mercedes at the moment, or so it feels. And of course, Alonso is still a really strong driver, but I think we can take him. And we can go for the win a second time in a row. As you can see, Charles Leclerc, current Drivers' Championship leader, he is ahead with 52 points. So that is 2 Grand Prix with the fastest lap that he is ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who is in P2. Of course, they are fighting for the win, but I don't think they will be eventually, as they still have to make a pit stop. It's us in the provisional P2. And it's time for the restart. I thought maybe the broadcast is fun for the safety car. So let me know what you think in the comments down below as we are restarting this Grand Prix. The safety car is in this lap, and you can see we are in green flags running once again. It's Charles Leclerc who leads the way from Sebastian Vettel. And we get overtaken, or at least he tries, by Verstappen. And still Vettel and Leclerc are going side by side. We are going to take another look at that battle because it's just a fantastic battle as they are coming to the next sets of corners. They are still side by side. Leclerc looks like he's ahead, but Sebastian Vettel has the inside line, which will be faster as we overtake Fernando Alonso. We are now up into P3. We will have a replay in just a moment as Leclerc and Vettel are still in P1 and P2 side by side. But it looks like Leclerc is going to win this battle once again. and we have a replay of our overtake on Fernando Alonso. We push him a bit wide, which means that we get a great run out of that corner, and we are now in the lead of the Grand Prix. Of course, we are still in P3, but as it looks, Leclerc and Vettel, not Verstappen, are both going into the pits, which means that we are now the leading car of this Grand Prix. We just need to hold on for 17 laps to that first place to try and win this Grand Prix. Perez is still behind us, Alonso is still behind us, Verstappen, Sainz, Hamilton. You can name so many drivers which can overtake us, but it looks like at the moment we are creating a gap to the car is behind. It's a 1.5 second gap to Perez. It's 1.8 to Alonso as they are now going to try and overtake each other. You can see Alonso goes around the outside, and at the moment it doesn't look like he made his overtake as Verstappen is going around the outside of Fernando Alonso, and Alonso is off P4, he's into P5. Oh no, he's off the podium, I'm sorry. Sainz is in P5 at the moment. He is on mediums, but he doesn't need to stop anymore. He's going from a soft to medium strategy, and I think it's going to work out for him as he is currently at the better tire. But of course, at the end of the Grand Prix, his tires will be gone. He has the fastest lap at the moment, and the gap behind is now 3.4 seconds. We are leading this Grand Prix with over 3 seconds as we have a bit of a moment going through the S sections, and it's a second warning for us. I didn't show you the first warning, but it doesn't matter that much. As you can see, we are still in the lead in lap 24, still 13 laps to defend, as now we go into the first corner with a 3 second lead and we come out of it. As you can see, the gap is growing, the gap is even further growing, and the gap is now over 4 seconds, it's almost 5 seconds because Perez and Verstappen are trying to overtake each other, and there's a great battle behind, but we need to focus to not make any mistakes. We cannot afford another warning, because I have the feeling that Verstappen might be really quick. As you can see, Verstappen is now ahead of Perez, Alonso is still in P4, and Hamilton has overtaken Sainz at the moment. So he is in P5. You can see Verstappen is 5 seconds, Perez is 7 seconds, which means that Verstappen is closing up to us. As we are currently faster than Perez and Alonso and Hamilton, they are still fighting for P3 to take that final spot on the podium, but it's still 9 laps remaining. Verstappen is 4 seconds behind. We need to be at least at the same pace as him to try and stay ahead of him. Of course, if he's more than half a second faster than us per lap, then he's going to get us eventually with the ERS, with the DRS. Of course, in the final 2 laps, they will get OP ERS and they will be faster than we can ever be. So we need to try and create a big gap to him. As you can see, Vettel is still behind Leclerc, is still behind my teammate, who is I think in P19 or maybe P18 or something like that. So none of the leaders will take any points in this Grand Prix. So it's still 52 points between Leclerc and Vettel. But of course, Vettel can still win this championship, as there is still a sprint race in Brazil, which we are going to next. But it's only 3 seconds now. It's 5 laps remaining, 2 seconds gap. It looks like he's closing into us, and it's going to be just a few laps until he's inside the ERS, inside the DRS, not ERS. He has ERS for himself, but it's 1.5 seconds. It's 2 laps remaining after this one. Are we going to win this Grand Prix? Let me know what your prediction is. I have a feeling that we could have a good shot at it, as we are now in the penultimate lap of the race. You can see 1.8 seconds is the gap. We put in a purple first sector, which is really, really great to see, which means that we are faster than anyone on track. Which means that we can extend our gap to Verstappen, which helps us in the final lap. Of course, if Verstappen has DRS in the final lap, then he can easily overtake us. Of course, we are going to defend from him, as we've done many times before in this Grand Prix. The gap to Perez is 11 seconds, and as we enter the final lap of this Grand Prix, it looks like we are going to win it. But to finish first, you must first finish. A quote by Juan Manuel Fangio, as we are now going through the corner section of this lap. You can see we had the straights already, and as it looks like it, we are going towards the final sector. It's only the stadium section, and then we are a 2-time Grand Prix winner. You can see Verstappen still 1.7 seconds behind as we go towards the final corner. We've won here before, and we are going to be a 2-time Grand Prix winner as we take the checkered flag here in Mexico. We have won the Mexican Grand Prix. What an amazing feeling this is.
Great drive, we did it! Good job, we did it!
As you can hear, Mark is also really happy for me. Of course, the whole team gets a boost from this as we win the Mexico Grand Prix. And yeah, it's just fantastic to see. But this is something strange. Charles Leclerc is crowned Drivers' World Champion, but Vettel is still within the points to get it mathematically. Of course, it's really difficult to gain 52 points in 2 Grand Prix, but anything can happen. Anything is possible.
You can't fault the performance on the track today. A well-deserved victory. Anthony, tell me, what was it that helped them achieve this success?
I think a large part of the result comes down to temperament. They were able to keep their heads when everyone around them was losing theirs, and that's allowed them to get the best out of the car, to maximise the strategy, and to stay out of trouble.
A show-stopping performance from the 3 drivers approaching the podium right now. It's been an interesting Grand Prix, that's for sure.
Oh boy, what a beautiful entrance to the podium. I've waited a long time to see that one, but we finally see it now. It's a double podium for Red Bull, but we are on the top step of the podium. We have taken another win. We've won here before last season, and we win again. It looks like this is our lucky track. And we haven't lost it here, so we are a 2-time Grand Prix winner. Of course, at the beginning of the episode I've showed you that we were on the podium 5 times. Now we can mark it off to put it on 6 times. As Carlos Sainz is in P6 and he took the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. We were only 1/10 behind that on our old hearts. And you can see Leclerc and Vettel in P16 and 17, our teammate in P18. So he's definitely going to be fired at the end of this season. So let me know which F1 driver or F2 driver I need to get for season 3. As you can see, 52 points behind Leclerc is Vettel at the moment, so it's still possible. But as we take a look at the constructor standings in just a moment, we are taking it really long until then. It should be now. Yes, you can see Ferrari and McLaren are on exactly the same amount of points, 482. So anything is still possible there. But this episode has unfortunately come to an end. If you haven't subscribed yet, then please do. And if you haven't seen this episode on your screen, then click right now. Goodbye.